Greetings and welcome back to smartwatchtics.com. We have a box full of, well, another controversial blood glucose reading smartwatch. Yep, it's one of these does everything, you know, ECG, heart rate, blood, oxygen, even a thermometer in it. But we're a little not sure about the blood glucose, and I got some insight, a little bit more for you in this review if you stick it out. We've got a cover on here, a little bit of film that protects it, and interestingly on the back, you see how we've got a little plastic film, but they left little cutouts in case somebody doesn't realize you need to take the cover off from the back and sends it back saying it's not working, because you do need to be able to make body contact with those electrodes. Inside the box we will get to after I tell you it's available from Banggood. This is the E420, an upgrade to the E400. Yep, 1.39-inch HD screen, basically the same thing. In fact, what it's got in it, as we go through the overall specs, low power chip in here, Bluetooth 5.1. In fact, everything, the 280 milliamp hour battery, the 360 by 360 high resolution touchscreen, IP68 waterproof, all of it is basically the same as what we looked at in the E400. So we go deeper in here to see if there's anything else different. There's a manual, a charging wire, a little card. I believe this is the same card we looked at before. Come on, you guys. That's Chinese on one side, English on the other, talking about how to do the ECG tests. And we have the 2-pin connector, magnetically coupled, exactly the same charger. It's not strong enough quite to hold this heavy watch, but it definitely will charge it. So what we're going to do is take a look at this one, but not in the traditional straight-through linear review. We've already done that with the E400. Highly recommend you go back and watch that for all the intimate details. Today, what I plan to do is grab the E400 and show you the two of them side by side as we kind of do a comparison as well as a review. Now, the manual, from what I can tell, is basically identical to what we looked at in the E400. Nice colorful thing, talks about downloading the H-band app. We've got main functions page, here's your body temperature and heart rate. Everything else is the same. How you measure blood pressure, weather, your sleep time. You got stopwatch built into it, shortcut functions, raise your wrist, and so forth. And then, of course, other languages too. So here's how we're going to do this comparison. I've got the E400 strapped on up here, and the E420 is down here. Notice the difference button. It's flat here rather than round. Both of them are round here. That's the easiest way to physically see the difference. Other than looking at the bezel itself on the E400, it's just a plain raised bezel. Here, you actually have markings, and it's a little flatter. Okay, when we get into it now, I got the same basic watch faces. There are differences between them. Swipe down, and we have exactly the same layout of information. Everything is the same. Only the difference is the E420 versus the E400. All right, you with me? Now, and of course you could erase the information or turn it off there. When we slide over and we get into the step count, and I've had both these watches on exactly the same since yesterday. They're about the same step count. The sleep time is radically different in terms of what it calculated. We'll look at that in the app. The heart rate now is showing about the same active heart rate, the same range, and the same display. We've got blood pressure, which is a one-time thing that you take the measurement. Same with blood oxygen. It goes in and does that immediately using the red diode on both of them. Now, blood glucose. This is where it gets interesting. Notice that they look exactly the same. You'll also see when I get into the app that they got a 2 bump, a late breakfast and a lunch bump and a dinner bump. Guys, I gotta say it, I'm really leaning to the glucose being faked. It really looks like they're just picking a time of day and giving you a reading. If I start the measurement on both of them, of course, if it's the same type watch, the same body at the same time, we would expect there to be exactly the same values, 629, 639, right in alignment with a breakfast bump coming back down again before lunch. But really, it's not valid. When you look in the show notes, read the comments and some of the reviews on any of these that I've done, and I've done a few of these blood glucose ones now. The response is those who are diabetic and are measuring against actual blood-drawn devices are getting different results, and they're claiming that the value is in error. So I am not going to be promoting this at all or advising you at all to use blood glucose for anything. We get over here, we get into the ECG. Now, it's showing you a heart rate associated with the ECG when you start it and you touch the electrode. These particular watches do not show you an ECG chart. They only show you the calculated heart rate from that ECG chart. And sadly, if it is producing one, it's not storing it on the watch and transferring it over to the app. So when you take a remote ECG like this, all you really have is an estimate of your heart rate done electrically as opposed to the diodes. Now we know it's working because there's no diode on, and if I lift it, it says it got disconnected, okay? So it is indeed doing an electrical measurement of your heart rate, but it's not producing an ECG chart. Only the E500 and a couple of others, of course we got a playlist that shows all those, has the actual chart shown on the screen. If you want to do an ECG, you have to take it from the app. And then you get your temperature, which is the next one, and they seem to correlate pretty well. It doesn't take too long. This is the actual skin temperature, 89.3. Wow. Well, it was correlating earlier, 93.6. On the same arm, at the same time. I don't think I have a temperature of 93 here. 93.7. Interesting. There's a significant difference there. Now, when I did the analysis on these, I've switched these watches into different positions and run the data, and I didn't see any big differences between them. And after that, you get weather in your area. It's not linking up on the E400 with the H-band app. It is linking up on this one, shows you where your location is and weather and all that kind of stuff. So we'll skip all of that. And then you're back basically to the starting watch face. And here is where we do see some differences. I'm going to press and hold and show you. We have an entry watch face. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then a custom face that you can download from the app. Here, I've got fewer. I'm going to go back to the beginning. I have 1, 2, these are not active buttons, by the way, 3, 4, and 1 more. So you have 4 stock ones here and 1 custom one. I downloaded the same custom one from the app, and that's what it looks like. But there's, of course, several others that you can play with as well. When you swipe up on both of these, you get the notification. This is a bit sluggish on the twist your wrist. Notification sent from your phone. When you're back here and you press to turn on and off, you press down here, you get into all of your apps. Again, press on and off, and here. Now these are the same. The workouts have not changed. They're exactly the same. Check them out. Down hiking, stair stepper, all the way down to rowing machine. Not a lot, maybe 20 of them, I'm not sure, but they're exactly the same too, and that's what you got to by pressing here. Pedometer we've looked at, sleep, heart rate, blood pressure, ECG, blood oxygen, body temperature, blood glucose, right? And same thing here. exactly the same. The PTT is when you put this thing in a strap and you measure it and you can get real-time continuous ECG, and that works the same on both of them. Breathing, weather, notifications, alarms, stopwatch, timer, they're exactly the same implementation. You've got music, find your phone. Ladies, if you're set up that way, get your period tracking camera and overall settings, which includes screen and display, up to 30 seconds, same brightness level on both of these, health monitor. You have all of those same switches. They're exactly the same. Blood glucose monitor, all-day sleep, body temperature, all of that is exactly the same. Switches where you can do your wake-up or movement reminder is the same. Notifications, languages, the H-band app. Now, notice this is a QR code for the H-band app, and so is here the same thing. You can download that app, or you can use the H-band 2.0 app. And for what we're about to see, and system I showed you is all your system information. We saw that already too. What you're about to see now is the fact that the H-band app has been used to link up the E420, but I put the E400 on the H-band 2.0. And because the apps are identical, we can compare the data back and forth really, really easily. You ready? So here's the Google Play Store. I searched on H-band 2. Just to bring both of these up, notice the difference in the icon. The blue one is called H-band, the green one H-band 2.0, and I've got them both open on here. The E420 is in the blue one, H-band, and E400 is in H-band 2. I did this so it's going to be easier for us to compare the information. Let's open first the E400, and let's make sure it synchronizes. As I've got a little bit of extra data on here, I actually reversed the two of them now. The 420 is up at the top, and notice I'm having that same discrepancy on twist your wrist to light the screen. So it has to do with, your rotating gravity, and when you're going this direction, or if you're on this wrist, same way. So I don't think there's an anomaly with the 420 over the 400 in its response time. See, that sign doesn't catch it sometimes. So that's one possibility, is the different positions of the watches. We'll check temperature again in a minute after they stabilize, just in case the inside of my arm is hotter than the outside. What I want to show you, in addition to our overall step count, and now I can get rid of that, 1500, 1654, but let's update this one, and it should be calibrating closely to it. I went out and walked another 250 steps. So throughout the day, you can see the pedometer. They're pretty close, about 50 steps off now at this point. The sleep, of course, is off, but the step count, the pedometer measurements in both of them seem to be pretty darn close. And here's the actual numbers that are shown here, and here. There's some examples of the two back and forth, 65, 257 to 287. That might be the discrepancy right there. But you're getting the overall pedometer reading. Now, again, if you want to see detailed analysis of the app, check out the review on the E400, because that's where we go into detail of what it all means. For this, I'm just going to flip back and forth for the comparison. The sleep time, still disappointed in the way the H-band suite handles sleep time, because you can't really derive any kind of meaning out of this. It jumps around way too much, minute by minute, so you get kind of an homogenized view of your REM sleep, your awake sleep. Well, the awake, it doesn't show up much, but your deep, light, and REM sleep is all meshed together. At the end of the video, I want to show you some real sleep data from the two sources that I highly recommend if you want sleep data most. And I've done a lot of deep analysis with this, in particular around dreams, making sure I knew when the dreams happened, and then monitoring the different devices as to which ones are giving us the best overall indication of when you're in REM sleep. Here's heart rate. Notice the white down at the bottom. That's your activity level. This is the heart rate for the day so far to that point. We'll get them both up on the screen. In fact, I'll scoot it up here so we can see heart rate variability, and blood pressure across from each other. These look practically identical. Are you seeing that? Now, I could go deeper into it, and in the full review of the E400, I go into all of that. The HRV, now we do want to look a little deeper, but look at the charts on those. They look very similar. But let's go into the Lorenz scatter diagram and the actual data on both of these. Okay, now remember, the Lorenz scatter diagram is a visual device that lets you look at the contour and shape of the spatters of the dots on there to tell you, based on what shape you're seeing, what your heart may look like. That's a quick overview. Again, we've got other reviews of this that go with much more detail. You can see that these are looking very similar to the Comet, which is the standard one. Hang on a second. Let's put this back down here so you're seeing basically the chart and the data like this one. Okay, so here they are side by side, the charts, the Lorenz, everything very, very close. Check this out now. I can go back to yesterday, watch that, and go back to the day before, and I get different patterns and distributions. You're seeing that change both up here and down there, 14, 15, and 16. And likewise on this one, let's let it load it. Now we can compare. So the distributions look like this. If you really want to take your time to flip back and forth between the two, and in this video you can see the changes, but basically the shape hasn't changed. Okay, that's there. Blood pressure, it's taking continuous or regular readings on it, and blood oxygen as well. So we want to show you these two charts together, like so. And you don't see a whole lot of difference in the blood pressure, 126/91, 129/92. I have no idea if this is accurate or not. It's reasonable, but I honestly don't know if you could rely on it. So I will lean toward telling you don't until you've confirmed on your own, whichever watch you buy, whether or not that's accurate. Now your blood oxygen, that's broken down a little bit more refined, and this is what's using the red diodes. Average value is still 97, but you can see through the night we had different ranges in here. And it's giving you kind of a broad range of where it went in the half hour during that sleep, is my guess of what this chart indicates. There's kind of a solid line going through it, which is your normal one if it doesn't change, but some of them were a little higher, a little lower. There were no sleep apnea events or anything. First, take a look at these blood oxygen charts beside each other to get a sense. We have one really nice high one there, 98, 99, something like that. Average was 97. And then take a look at the data. We have no apnea, so I'm going to skip that one and look at these things from the blood oxygen concentration all the way down to cardiac load. What do we got? 97. Now remember, blue is the E420, right? And green is the 400. 97, we've got basically 10 for respiratory rate. Everything else is the same. Cardiac load, 34, 32. So they're handling the analysis of your overall blood oxygen very, very well between the two. We're not seeing any radical difference between them in that measurement. So basically they appear to be very much the same until you get down to ECG and body temperature. And we're going to play with that next. ECG and body temperature. Body temperature is easy to see. Here you go. That's what it's looking like. They seem to be pretty close until this one started jumping up on us. Look at that. The last one was 98, right? This one was 97. Now, I mentioned I've reversed them, so let's take that one more time. Here's the E400, and this one was the one that was reading lower. Now look at that. It's up to 91.3. Interesting. Okay, this one was the one that was reading higher in the 90s, and now on the top, well, 91.1, 91.3. Huh. I don't have an answer for you guys. Now they're correlating perfectly. Temperature's fickle. It's got to stabilize where you're wearing it and whatnot. But right now they're matching up almost identical for the overall body temperature. You can come in here, see the graph, 98.6. Now, I was mentioning the number of the skin temperature, and I have to show you that over here. The average is 88, and right now it's showing 91.3, and body temperature, skin temperature is probably this one right here. But there's your maximum, minimum, and average of the two. So, yeah, if you don't need it more accurate than within a degree or two, then you're probably all right, especially your average, 90.8, 92.3. But there does appear to be a bit of a difference, but again, it could be because of how I positioned them for this experiment. Now we're going to get down to blood glucose and lady information, and this is where it gets really, really crazy. Blood glucose, okay? I mentioned that the charts look almost identical, and they do. But check this out. I want to go in here and back us up a day. And likewise, go in here and back us up a day. Now, come on. Look at that. They are identical. Follow with me the pattern. You see it kind of rising to a sharp ski slope, kind of, and then going down with a little bump, then coming up, then a little ripple. You see that? You see that exact same pattern? But Mr. Tix, you're wearing it on the same arm. You're having the same blood glucose. Okay. Here's the next day before that. The only difference, slight difference, and there wasn't any there, is in that entry chart between the 14th and the 15th. Switch it to the other one. Same thing. Otherwise, it's exactly identical. Guess what? On the 14th, I didn't have breakfast. There's no reason for it to have peaked. But both of them did that. So I'm conjecturing there could be a hidden algorithm that's monitoring time and giving a reading based on that time, since the watches match perfectly. You be your own best judge. If you are diabetic or are you taking your blood glucose with the prick and your actual blood and you get one of these devices, please, please, please let us know in the comments your personal results. Do they match? Do they not? And mess around with your eating habits so you're not eating at 10 in the morning, at 3 in the afternoon or something, and then at 6 o'clock at night, whatever this is. See if you change from day to day if the chart looks the same. Really getting a bad feeling for blood oxygen. Ladies, you're more predictable in where you are in your cycle than blood glucose, let me tell you. And that is simply done by going into the chart, setting your information in here. You'll be able to see where it is as long as you put in through the settings and whatnot your length of period, your period cycle length, and when it started. It can generally figure all kinds of information out for you, as you probably know, and that will show up here then too. And on the watch, it pushes notifications to you and give you some insight into what's going on. Okay, the rest of this is all the same. The workouts we talk about in the other longer review. You can get GPS movement if you do an exercise initiated from the phone while you take your watch along with you. Mine is where you put in all of your basic information. step goals, units, and all of that. And I've tried to match these two devices up perfectly with each other in everything that's in here. So we could even look at battery life comparisons, which, by the way, they seem to be perfectly matched as well. They're running about half right now. It's a little bit below a half, but it was about a half or so when we started. And if I come over here, go into here, go into here, all right, the 420 looks like maybe a little bit more, right, at this point, but hard to tell. This has been over 2 days collecting all of this data without charging them up, so you should get at least 3 or 4 days with heavy load. And by heavy load, I mean turning on all the different switches, putting in all your personal blood pressure. I did not put in glucose because I don't know. I don't know what my glucose level is. I don't need to take it, thank goodness. But the switch settings, all of this stuff is turned on both of the watches. So it's measuring the heck out of everything all night, all day. And I got 30-second timeout on the screen. So it's a heavy load on the battery, and it's still doing pretty darn good. Last thing, we didn't go deeper into looking at the watches themselves. So if you'll bear with me just a little bit longer. This is the 420. This is the 400. The band color, by the way, is not an indicator. Where'd that come from? Of a difference between the watches, because, of course, you can get them in different colors. Let's look again physically now. How are they the same? How are they different? The side, you can see the button differences there, but that's about it. This one has a slice through it. These are shiny. The electrode is the same. This has got a little bit of a case design change to it. The bands are removable. The back now, check this out. The placement of the electronics here, this big rectangular section, the green light you saw on, the one on the side, there's 2 above and below. The diode array is exactly the same. The plates are exactly the same. The charging ports and the charger are exactly the same. So physically, the only difference is looking at the dial and looking at the button down here. But internally now, they're claiming 512 hertz ECG monitoring accuracy increased by 48%. This is on the new 420. So when you're doing ECG, supposedly, it's better. Let's check that. Now remember, the only way we can get an actual ECG chart from these watches is to initiate it from within the app. We're looking at the E400. I'm putting it on my wrist just by itself now. And I want to test both of them under the exact same conditions. I've done one test already. I have its results here. But I want to come in here and hit Start Testing. Get everything ready, and I want you guys to keep your eye on this. I'm going to be grabbing the electrode and just bracing it over here. I found I actually get better signal if I touch my skin with my other hand. It helps ground it, apparently. Are we ready? Start it. It goes into testing mode. I have the electrodes against my wrist. I'm holding the side electrode, not squeezing it too hard, but holding it gently. And now you're starting to see the chart develop. I know this is going to take a little while. If you got to bail out, I understand, but this is one of the key differences, supposedly, so I want to run the full test out. Okay, it tells us save the data. Going to confirm that. Get into ECG details. Here's our breakout, and there's our chart. We're going to take a look at it once we've got the other one completed. Okay, we got the app ready for the E420. Just a reminder, if you like this one, you can pick it up at Banggood. I've been rambling for a long time. Some of you ready to buy? There's a link in the show notes, as you know. Head on over for the E420. Supposedly the newest one with this increased ECG capability. I could go down here and do the ECG like we just did. Or, for those of you who don't know, hitting more, all of your measurements are right here. So I can tap that one. It takes us right to the page ready to do the ECG test. Got it on, got it ready to go. Same watch face even. Hit the start, grab and hold, touch lightly. Give it a moment. It says the device is busy. Okay. Okay, I've turned off and turned the watch back on again, rebooted it, let it connect up again. Let's try it one more time. All right, now it says it's testing. Got it in position, holding it. There comes the data. You could be looking at the quality of the chart. It does seem to have a little bit more wiggles in it. I don't know. Not being a medical professional and able to read these, I can't quite, I don't know. You got a bump and then followed by another bump and then some squigglies. Yeah, that's why this is amateur YouTube. Okay, testing completed, save the data. ECG details. And I just want to go back and forth. This is the first one, and the 400, and this is the new one that we just did right here, right? So they're pretty much the same heart rate variability, close. That's the analytic results. But what can you see from the chart? I'm just going to scroll into it a little ways. There you go. Switch over to this one and rotate this chart. Get a little ways into it. And what do you see? There's one of them. There's the other one. Let's go a little further so you got some continuous ones. Okay. First one. Second one. Are you seeing any major differences? This seems to me to have a little bit more definition, and theoretically that higher speed of testing would lead to more refined results, right? So which one are we looking at? Let's flip that back. Let's come back here and back here. And that's the E420, the newer one. So marginally better in doing the ECG. Up to you. What do you think? They're both nice watches and definitely worth checking out. We have the review up already on the E400 and a lot of detail going into on the app itself. And this is now the new review for the E420 available from Banggood. It's in flash sale while we're doing this. It may be out of that. In the meantime, check in the show notes to see if we have a coupon discount for you. But really, for $40 or so, either one of these watches would be great. The only drawback, I like to see the ECG chart on the screen of the watch. It doesn't do that on this one. Here's a trick for you. In the titles of my videos, if I put in live ECG, that means you'll see it on the chart. If it just says ECG, it means it can produce the ECG, but you got to do it with the app. So when you go to smartwatchtix.com, go to the little magnifying glass, put in the key phrase live ECG, it should bring up all of my reviews of watches that have the live ECG. The 400 to 420 don't, the E500 does, and there's a few others that do as well. So just up to you if you want that feature or not. Okay, thanks for watching and bearing with this long review, and we'll see you again soon. Okay, let me shift gears with you for a second. IDW15. I did what? IDW15. Check out the review on this one. This produces one of the best sleep graphs I've seen, or charts, analysis if you want. This is last night's sleep from this particular watch, the Vibeat watch, and notice the awake, REM, light, and deep sleep. Just before waking up, I was going in and out of dreams and practicing lucid dreaming. For those of you who know about it, that's where you recognize you're in a dream. And man, you can go nuts with that. So I had cycles of different dreams. Sometimes I'd come back into the same dream, but it lasted for quite a while just before waking up. I see this pattern often. And I've also seen it, we will skip these and come back to them, in this. This is the Ringcon Smart Ring. Not to be confused with the Aura Ring. I'm not seeing the patterns in the Aura Ring, but here is last night's sleep time recorded by the Ringcon Ring. Beautiful, interesting, awake, REM, light, deep, same arrangement. But check it out, as it got closer to waking up, I was oscillating a lot between REM and light sleep. Now this one showed me more in REM than in light, but I mean, it's a fluttering of your eyes with your eyes closed, and a ring is picking that up, or a watch. Amazing. But it is accurate. I do have these REM bouts at different times, and if I wake up, I make note of the time. I check these charts on every watch I review that produces them to see how close they are. These are the two, the Ringcon ring and the IDW15 from Vibeat, and you can check both those reviews out, but they won't go into the detail you see here. What I wanted to do now, because we are talking about the E400 and E420, is to contrast these a little bit. So you see the way these look, right? Especially right here at the end. Even though this thing flutters, if you take kind of a broad view of it, you see that there's a cluster of REM here, and again, right before waking up, there's a bit of a cluster of the REM sleep showing up. So even though it jumps all over the place like static on a radio, you might be able to hear the signal if you look at it from a broad sense on how closely they are together. The other one, not as much, but a little bit. But this one that seemed to be pretty close to accurate at the wake-up time is which one? The E400. Interesting. Now we're done.